Hi, honeys. My name is Michelle Escalin, in case it's your first time here. And if it's not your first time here, welcome back. Either way, welcome. And Happy New Year. It's exciting to have 2020 be over. I think we all had a difficult year, some of us more so than others, but I think that we all learned a lot last year. And, well, it was just kind of a year. For me, the first 6 months of the year, especially, or maybe not the first 6 months, between February and August, I had a really hard time reading, which is weird. I was so depressed I couldn't read. I don't know if you've ever felt that way. I really enjoyed the books I read. I got really invested in them, but I was much slower at reading. And I can't really explain it. Usually when I'm depressed, I'm able to read even faster, but not, it's like that's been a change for me. And now that I've become used to the changes in the world around me, I'm an avid reader and I'm going through books regularly again. I did not read very many books in 2020. It was probably one of the slowest years of my life. I mean, even in elementary school, I read more books a year. Let's see, got my little reading journal here. I read 40 books. That's it. I usually read at least 50. My goal is to read somewhere between 6 and 8 books a month, or 7 books a month, we'll just say. What, Marty? It's my cat, if you heard him. Oh, okay. So that's my goal for 2021, is to read 7 books a month. And what I would like to do is read 1 classic, read 2 new releases, read at least maybe 1 memoir or a nonfiction book a month, and then the rest be a bunch of books that are over here in my to be read stack or to be reread stack. And so hopefully that works out well. Maybe I'll read more than 7 a month. You never know. We'll find out. But I will be doing booktube videos every Sunday this year. So I'll be doing a lot of book videos, and I hope that you join me. I hope that you love reading and books as much as I do. I think if you're a book reader, you're probably just as passionate about it as I am. And before I get started on my favorite 10 books, we don't all feel the same about every book. And so there might be books I loved that you hated, and I might hate books that you loved. And I think that's part of the beauty, is that we all have different takes and outlooks and responses to books that we read. What, baby? Oh. Marty says, I loved every book you read this year, Mommy. Did you? You loved them all? My cats, I've got 2 cats, Zelda and Marty, and they both love to lay and cuddle with me while I read. So I like to joke around that they read with me. They go through the emotions with me. Right, baby? He's rubbing up on some books that are on the floor. Oh, don't scratch that. Do you want to come say hi? No, don't scratch. You keep scratching the carpet lately. Stop it. No, sir. Anyway, to be one of my 10 favorite books of the year, a book does not have to be a 5-star book. It can be a 4-star book. But what it means for me is, 1, I would definitely reread it at some point in my life where I would like to. And 2, it's got to be a book, and I don't know this till later. It's got to be a book that I have thought about multiple times since I finished reading it. Something that stuck with me, something that resonated, some message that really stood out, or something I just really learned. And so that's what these books are all about for me. It's not even just a good story or beautiful writing. It's, was there something about it that really meant a lot to me? Number 10. I just read this in December. It's Charlaine Harris's Shakespeare's Christmas. I just love the main character, Lily Bard. She's so human. I love mystery books, and I love cozy mysteries. And usually with cozy mysteries, the main character seems to be a little annoyingly perfect, and this character is human. She's got flaws. She leads a rated R lifestyle, and I'm all about it. I'm there for it. I love it. And I can't wait to read the other books in this series, which is part of why I wanted to mention it. But there's just different aspects of who she is and how she accepts who she is and how she kind of struggles with who she is that I kind of took with me a little bit. I think a lot of us are like that. We are so hard on ourselves. We're our worst critic. And I kind of loved that about her, and it helped me come to terms with some of the things that I struggle with, if that makes any sense. I don't know why, but this particular book just affected me that way. So this is definitely my number 10 book of the year. Number 9 was Philip Gulley, A Lesson in Hope. And this is another one where I'm hoping to read the other books in this series. It's funny, I found both of these books at the Dollar Tree, and they're really stepping up their game and helping people like me out to learn new series and to, maybe you don't want to spend $20 on a book and then find out that you hate it. So it's kind of a nice way to discover new authors. Anyway, what I liked about this, my little list here fell down. What I liked about this book was something I struggle with religiously is that I feel like I need to be perfect. And this book was written by a pastor about a pastor, and there is a mystery involved too, which I really love. I love mysteries. But the pastor is human. He makes mistakes. He questions his faith. He has thoughts he shouldn't have. And it just made me feel better that maybe we don't have to all be these perfect beings just to be religious or to study the Bible or, to whatever religion you are. I think we all have that expectation that we're supposed to be certain things, and I don't know that that's necessarily true. So I really liked that this book helped me come to terms with that a little bit, that I don't have to be perfect in every single way, but I keep thinking about it, how important it is to not have to be perfect. And the other thing about this book, there's an underlying message about boundaries, what happens when you set them and what happens when you don't. Super important. Marty, what are you doing? Did you see him almost get up on the bookshelf? What are you doing, sir? You okay? What's wrong? Nobody knows. Only Marty knows what's going on with him. Hi, baby. The Count of Monte Cristo is number 8 by Alexandre Dumas. This was a really hard book for me to read. I found it very slow at certain times, but it was a really... Sorry, my cat is all over it today. Calm down. Telling a cat to calm down. What was I saying? I found it to be an interesting book about what we can survive, especially... Sorry. Would you stop it? I found it to be such a good book about how adaptable we are, especially reading it this in 2020. It was kind of a good time to read it. A reminder of how strong we all are, what we can survive, what we can get through. And then there's also the message about revenge. Do you really want it if there's a cost to get it? Does it really matter? Very thought compelling. So I definitely recommend this book. It's way better than the movie. I was so mad when I watched the movie. I had seen the movie years ago and thought it was great. And then I read the book and watched the movie and thought, what is this crap? They left out this, and they left out this, and they left out this, and I can't stand it. But it is a really good book. Maybe read it at least once in your life, or 2 or 3 times. Number 7, The Finishing School by Joanna Goodman. Oh my gosh, this book. Telling you what. For me, I think one of the things, and I guess a lot of us maybe have had this experience, but I guess I hadn't quite resolved certain things about high school. I didn't realize I hadn't, but then I read this book and I realized I had some unresolved things from high school. This book is about a lady named Kirsty who is my age, and she had gone to boarding school overseas. And I also went to boarding school. Not for as long as she did. I only went for, it was like 2 or 3 months. It's not very long. But she had something very crazy happen, and it's an unsolved mystery from her high school years, and it's the school's 100th anniversary. And she's invited, and she decides to go back and figure out what happened all those years ago. And so it kind of bounces back between the 90s and now, and her life then and her life now, and how different things affected her. There's a lot of 90s references, which I'm all about. And it was just very healing when it comes to the past and how it molds us into who we are. But we can also move from that. We can move on from it. We don't have to hold on to the past. We don't have to keep looking in the rear view mirror kind of thing. And it was just so beautiful to me, this book. And the last fourth of it was sizzling, and I couldn't put it down. It was quite the page turner. It was just so good. And I'm definitely rereading this book. And I think about it a lot. Just some of the things I learned from it, some of the healing I got from it. And the 90s references didn't hurt either. But it felt like it was, in some ways, it felt like I was reading about my own life. In other ways, not so much, right? I mean, nobody is going to write a book that's about my life specifically, but it was just really good. I loved it. And I got this at the Dollar Tree too. I don't know. It just happened over and over again this year. Okay, I have a lot of Book of the Month selections that ended up being my favorite books of the year. And some of them are over here. So I'll go ahead and, I just had re-upped my Book of the Month subscription. I think it was in June. So I don't have a whole lot of Book of the Months yet. Eventually it'll probably be a bunch of them. I used to have a membership. I shut it down when I moved to Vegas, forgot about re-upping it, and then finally did in June. Anyway, The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. Good book. Good book. And it was a sci-fi, which I'm not a sci-fi person, I don't think. And I've never probably ever read a sci-fi book, but I loved it. I do think about it a lot. This book is about different dimensions, and that there's one of us in other dimensions. And depending on the outcome of you in each of the dimensions, you may or may not still be alive in different dimensions. You might be leading a totally different life. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure. And I just keep thinking about that. What it meant, what it means. Is it possible? Do I believe that there's other me's and other dimensions? I think I do. Not that not that my ego's that big, but I just have always kind of thought there was other dimensions that we're all in. And sometimes I think when we're dreaming, we go to those other dimensions. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep, but I keep thinking about this book, and I really loved it. Number 5, Leave the World Behind. Now, I will say there's a lot of people that did not like this book, and I don't know why. For me, I read it in 24 hours. I loved it. I couldn't put it down. It was amazing. It was beautifully written, too. I mean, it just really made me think about so many things. Do we really know people? No. Until an emergency happens or the you-know-what hits the fan, you don't really know people. People will turn on you faster than you can say turn when things go down. And it's pretty important to think about that. Who's really going to be there if you need help? Especially now. And it's fascinating. It's so fascinating to think about, what do we really need? What is really necessary? What really matters? how do you really want to live each day of your life? How do you appreciate your moments in your life thoroughly? Because you don't know if you're ever going to get this time back. You don't know how much longer you're going to be here. I mean, it's deep. It is deep. But if you're willing to go down that rabbit hole of questioning everything, read this book. It was so good. And I will definitely be rereading this probably soon. I loved it that much. "1984" by George Orwell. I hated it, scared the crap out of me, and I loved it. You know? I think about it a lot. I think about in what ways it relates to life now. It's crazy to me that he wrote this book when he did. I think it was in the 50s or something, if I remember correctly, or the 40s. There's no way he could have known how similar this would be to life now. The only thing that he missed was cell phones and technology and how big they would be. But how could you dream that up in the 50s or 40s when he wrote it? It was so good, though. And I keep thinking about different parts of it. And once again, what really matters, what doesn't, what makes me me, or what makes you you. What do we really have to have in our lives to be happy? How much of the world around us can change and we're still happy? I go on these tangents, you guys. I'm a thinker. I can't help it. You look up the different personality types. I'm a INTJ. So I'm a real thinker. Neurotically, I get like kind of obsessed with certain subjects. I can't stop thinking about them, can't sleep at night. It's crazy. Anyway, what personality type are you? If you know, let me know. I want to know. You knew this was going to be on here, right? The Vanishing Half by Bennett. Oh, Lord, this was a good book. This was a good book. And I will definitely be, anything in the top 5, I'll be rereading at least once in my life, probably somewhat soon. What do I say about this book? It touched me. It touched me very deep, on a heart level. It meant a lot to me. It moved me. It really got me thinking about who we are, how we identify ourselves, how the world identifies ourselves, and whether or not that matters as much to our life and to our happiness. But it goes deeper than that, and I want you to read the book so you know what I'm talking about, because it's a lot. But basically what this book is about, just in case you haven't read it, there's 2 sisters that are twins, and they basically end up living completely different lives, and one of them is kind of running from who she is, and one of them isn't. And it's deep and thought compelling and beautiful and sad, and I loved it. Number 2. And part of why by the way, part of why these books are in the order they are in is how much I think about the book. How much did it change something for me? So it might not even be that one was written better than the other, or that one story was better than the other, but how much did it stick with me? How much do I think about it? So the next one is Nosferatu, which obviously did not come out in 2020. These are books I read in 2020. Obviously, Count of Monte Cristo came out way before her now. It was deep for me. One of the big things is, if you've ever gone through any kind of abuse, trying to come to terms with how someone could do that to you. How can people be so evil and mean and destructive? And this book really helped me resolve some of that. It made me realize that most people, even people that do really bad things and people that abuse people and just leave carnage behind in their wake, they think they're doing the right thing. They think they're a good person. They think the other person isn't. Usually. I mean, I guess every once in a while you have your Ted Bundys who he probably didn't think he was doing the right thing, but I think it's important to figure out how to forgive and how to move on from things. And I think that this kind of helped me do that. No, the characters in this book, guys, I loved them all. I loved all of them. Loved them. Cared about them. Even the evil ones. But the evil ones thought they were good. That's what I mean. It's really an interesting take on it. It's also about making the bad guys pay. But once again, kind of like the Count of Monte Cristo, but at what cost? So I think you have to be careful about that if you want to make a bad guy or a bad girl pay. This is about childhood, adulthood, loss, survival, being strong. It's about the holidays and how it's kind of this weird, sick thing we do where it's like, happy holidays. And it's like, but you think about all the people that hate the holidays, all the people that have bad memories of the holidays, all the people that are lonely and suicidal and hate life during the holidays. And we just kind of rub it in, don't we? I mean, so you think about that part of it if you're reading this book. This book is also about how easy it is to fall into anger and hate and to live in it, to savor it in a very unhealthy way. It's just so good. I took so much away from it. I can't wait to read it again. And yeah, read this. If you want to read a good book that will affect your life, or at least it did mine. That's the thing though, we're all different people. There's probably somebody watching this right now that hated this book, but for me it was just life changing. I literally think I've thought about this book every day since I read it. Every day. It's that good. And my number one book of the year is Winter Counts by David Heska Wanbli Weiden. Whoa, was this a good book? So good. This book is about a Native American named Virgil Wounded Horse who lives on a reservation. And Virgil is the local enforcer. He gets hired to rough people up a little bit. And he's got a lot of flaws, and I love this character. I love the other characters in the book. I love the reservation it took place on. I felt like I spent time on a reservation for months after reading it. It's such a beautiful blend of time, place, character development, storyline. It's just beautiful. I thought it was beautiful. And it was a mystery being solved while reading it. There was twists and turns I wasn't expecting. It was about depression, how we pull ourselves out of it, how we keep getting up every morning. The flow of this book was so beautiful. It's just so perfect. It just kept kind of, it almost was like a pendulum, just, it's beautiful. There was so many pages that I dog-eared and so many passages that I wrote down after reading it. And I think about this main character a lot. How much he affected my life and my getting through the last year. It's just amazing how much we can survive. And this book really nailed it home for me. And I can't wait to read it again. And I'm hoping that there's a sequel. I'm hoping. So Mr. Weiden, if you're watching, please write another book. Please write a follow-up to this. I'm going to have to check him out and see if he wrote any other books too, because his writing is just so beautiful to me. And I love reading books about different cultures. Like, I don't want to read about people that live the same life I do. You know, how boring is that? And for me, it was just a very deep, important book. And by far, my favorite book of the year. So aside from your personality type, let me know if you read any of these books, what you thought of them, and last but not least, let me know your favorite books of this year. If there's any that you absolutely loved and I didn't read, maybe I'll put them on my TBR list, and maybe I can do a review of them soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope that you have a happy, blessed 2021. I love you. Bye.